Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Development Review Commission. Today is June 24th, 2025. I'm Andrew Johnson. The purpose of the Development Review Commission was created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications where the Commission has recommendatory power, and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognizes that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, business, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interest of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. Development Review Commission recommendations to City Council are not final decisions. Tonight with us on the Commission, we have to my far right, Commissioner Stefan Richter, Commissioner Larry Tom, Vice Chair Michelle Schwartz, and to my far left, Commissioner Robert Miller, Commissioner Linda Spears, and Commissioner Barbara Lloyd. With us tonight from staff, we have Jeff Temelinovich, Ryan Levake, Jacob Payne, Karen Stovall, Chris Jasper, Robert Mancelio, Whitney Mayfield, Alexander Bosworth, Joanna Berry, Eddie Garcia, and Eric Moreno. I think there's a couple others scattered out there. Thanks to our guests as well. And tonight, if you are here to speak on one of the items, please fill out one of these cards and bring it up here to Ms. Berry, and we will get you on our list, get you in the queue. So to start, we will go through our meeting minutes approval and then move to our consent agenda. If anyone was here wishing to speak on an item that you hear on our consent agenda, please get my attention and we can pull that item from the consent agenda. Okay, so let's get going. First is the consideration of our meeting minutes from the Development Review Study Session and regular meeting of June 10th, 2025. Could I get a motion? Commissioner Tom?
Move to approve items 2A and 2B.
Okay, there's a motion from Commissioner Tom for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lloyd. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Okay, next I'll go through our consent agenda. These are items that we will vote on in the affirmative. And we have selected these in our study session this evening. So if you wish to speak on one of these, please get my attention now. Items on the consent agenda are items 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B, 4D, 4E, 4F, and 4G. Okay, seeing none, we will vote on that as the consent agenda. So can I get a motion for approval of that item?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, that's been moved by Commissioner Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner Richter. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that also passes unanimously. Okay, the first item that we will hear tonight is item 4C. Would the applicant please approach the dais and state your name and city of residence, please.
Hi there.
Hey.
Lance Baker, architect, Synectic Design. Address is 1111 West University Drive, Suite 104, Tempe, Arizona.
Thank you. And you have a presentation for us tonight?
Robert has the presentation. Oh, sorry. All right. Sorry, I thought you were presenting, so I was a little caught off guard.
The staff presents after the applicant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you go first.
All right. So we have a proposed 20-unit townhome development, which would be platted single-family lots on an existing 0.89 acre site on Apache and Oak, which would be the southwest corner. The units are all 3 stories. They all have 2-car garages, basically 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. And again, it's intended for single-family use. I'm sure, as Diana explained earlier, currently there's a commercial component that after meeting with the neighborhood association, they would prefer that not be there. And our client is in agreement with that it's a tough space to have a commercial space, but we can get into that later. But here's the site plan. So basically we have a single point of access, which is just off of Oak. There are 6 buildings. All of the buildings north of, so buildings 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 all have a rooftop amenity on the unit. Building 3, we did not do that due to the neighborhood to the south, trying to limit views to the neighborhood for privacy reasons. They all have a 2-car garage, like I said. They have an entrance on Apache and off of Oak Street for the units, so there's a sidewalk kind of aspect to it. They all have a private yard. There's a little more in-depth the site plan. We have 3 on-site parking spaces and 3 parking spaces along Oak Street. There's the commercial space that we'll be talking about in a few minutes on the corner. That's what I just went through, basically. Some preliminary elevations. Showing a mix of materials. It is not gated. The view from Apache. That is the hard corner currently with the single-story commercial space. This is the view from the alley. We had no access from the alley. The solid waste is picked up internally. Internal view showing the garages and the entries to the units. Landscaping. Questions?
Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, I don't think we have any questions.
Great. Take a seat.
All right, thank you. Mr. Monslio, if you could please present for the city.
All right. Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the commission. This is item 4C, request for a use permit to reduce the ground floor required 60% of commercial space within the station area TOD. And it's also a development plan review for a 20-unit townhouse development. And the site is currently zoned CSS, and that is not going to change. This is highlighting just the parcel to the left, but it is going to be both parcels on the corner there of Apache and Oak. And here are some site photos looking on Apache, and then number 2 is east-west along Apache, as well as number 4 and 3 is looking internally to the site. Some more pictures, 3 and 4 are of the existing building on site, which has been vacant for, I believe, about 10 years. And more pictures looking down the alley, 2 and 4 and 3 as well. And some additional pictures of the vacant building number 1, and then more alley pictures. And here are some additional Google Street View captures of the vacant buildings and the site fenced off. So talking about the use permit that we're hearing tonight, as we heard earlier, there is an additional use permit that we will hear in July for residential uses in the CSS zone. In our zoning code, in the TOD overlay district, in the station area, there is a requirement for 60% of street frontage to have commercial uses on it. And that can be reduced with a use permit. And this is what that looks like. So this is a corner example. Both of these are corner examples. So in example B, that North Street let's say, is Apache, and then the northwest or the north-south street is Oak, there would need to be 60% of the frontage be commercial space for each of those frontages. So the use permit is being required or being requested to reduce those percentages. And as we've seen here is the site plan. There are going to be 6 buildings for 20 total units. They are going to be platted for sale. Each unit includes a 2-car ground floor garage, along with 2.5 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms, laundry on the various floors. And buildings 1 to 4, 5, and 6 will have rooftop balconies, but as the applicant stated, building 3 will not. That butts up against the alley, and then there's single-family residential south of that alley. So that'll provide a little more privacy to those residents. And there will be 3 internal parking spaces internal to the site, and then 3 more on Oak. And this is a building key. So building 1 is along Apache Corner Commercial, building 2 along Oak, 3 along the alley, and then 4, 5, and 6 are internal, with 6 neighboring a multifamily development to the west. And here is the proposed landscape plan. They are meeting the required street trees along Apache and Oak. And those street trees are the red push pistache. And those will be, for the units along Apache, those will be inside the private yards for those units. And each of these units have private yards, except for 7, 8, and 9, which are along Oak Street. There really just wasn't room for a private fenced yard for those units. And the smoothie cascalote trees will be planted along the south and west property lines. And here are the floor plans. There are 3 floor plans. So this is type A. This is a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 2-car garage, about 2,400 square feet. This is the majority of the units. There'll be 12 units. Type B, very similar, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, a little larger, 2,515 square feet. And these will also have a rooftop balcony. And there'll be 3 units of type B. And type C, this is along the alley. So all of these units will be in building 3. And the major difference here is that there is no rooftop balcony. And then this is the commercial space as it's proposed now. So entrance off of the corner of Apache and Oak, restroom, and then there is an internal to the site entryway at that southwest corner. And here are some elevations. There are quite a few roof line adjustments, so it provides some variation in the roof line. Covered entryways along the front doors and small balconies on the second floors. And this would be the west elevation of building 1, so this would be seen if you're driving east along Apache, and then the east elevation is where the commercial building will intersect. And here is building 2. This will be fronted on Oak Street. Very similar elevations for all of these buildings, just with variations of the units within them. This is building 3. This will back up to the alley. And the main thing to see here is image number 2. This is how the building will back up to the alley. So that 30 feet measurement, that'll be closest to the alley and closest to the single-family residential. So the building was stepped down quite a bit to when it was approaching the alley and single-family residential. And here are elevations for buildings 4 and 5. These will be internal to the site. And here is number 6, which is the westernmost building and the commercial space as well. And here are some renderings. So this would be the rendering that would front onto Apache. So each of those small fenced-off yards will have a tree in them. This would be the frontage onto Oak Street with the 3 parking spaces. And this is that corner commercial space. And this would be looking northwest from Oak Street at the the primary entrance, the main vehicle entrance here to the site. And then this again is looking at the view from from Apache, excuse me. A neighborhood meeting was not required since this was not a rezone. And staff did meet with citizens for a vibrant Apache corridor on June 18th to discuss several issues, the main one being the removal of the commercial space. And if I could call up staff member Mike DiDomenico, our Director of Economic Development, he can speak more about that commercial space. And I will skip ahead. We do have some renderings and a site plan that the applicant provided of the space without the commercial. So this would be with the corner park. So that commercial space is removed, and that would be a corner park with a grill and a couple of tables. There's a closer version. Landscape plan. And that's a rendering of what it would look like without the commercial space.
Chairman Johnson, Commissioners, Mike DiDomenico, Economic Development Director. My first reaction when hearing of the neighbors' concerns or input on the property was to question the removal of commercial on the site. Typically, the Economic Development Department would push for more commercial and more activation, more reasons to bring people from off property onto the property to use the property. However, in looking at it and talking internally to staff and some other departments, we've experienced a problem with vacant commercial, especially in the area of Apache. It's kind of filters to other high density areas. And our concern, because we've had so much trouble filling these vacant spaces, is they create a blighted atmosphere. And we don't have a lot of tools as a city. We can ask developers to build it, and they will build it as part of these mixed-use projects. But we have no tools to make sure that they stay occupied and serve the purpose that the original design was intended for. So just because you build commercial space doesn't mean that magical coffee shop, third coffee shop on the block, is going to show up and rent your space and be successful. We also looked at some of the other projects that are coming directly adjacent to this. Directly across the street is what's commonly known as the Apache Central Project, which is coming forward this fall with design, which will be adding more commercial space to the other side of this intersection. Directly east of this, directly east of Oak, is a shopping center that's owned by the city. It's referred to as Apache Shopping Center. Most of us know it and frequent it as the home of Haji Baba, who's been there for quite a long time. We're having trouble filling. The city's intention is not to run the leases out. We've been trying to put more tenants in it and fill that center up, and we're having trouble. We've got our first letter of intent with a coffee shop. Surprise, surprise. But that will be about the first new lease in the area for small commercial that we've experienced. So we sat back and said, is this a better project with the potential for a commercial operator here in this small retail space? Or does this add a benefit to the neighborhood? And I'm not an urban design guy. I can't tell you whether this is good planning or bad planning. But I will tell you that it's a more attractive project, both for the people who live in the project with this shaded open space amenity. I think it can be said that it improves the quality of life for the people who will live in this project. Because the units are larger, there's a good chance that you'll have children and pets. And we thought that also serves a purpose as opposed to putting children and pets out on Apache for exercise. And it's certainly more attractive when you go past the project. If you look at this rendering versus the version that has the single-story commercial, we felt that this was possibly a better thing for the neighborhood to view into. So because of those reasons, economic development does not oppose the removal of commercial on this one specific site for this one specific development. Any questions?
Questions for staff? Commissioner Richter?
Yeah, I have one question for staff. Would be from a planning standpoint, would there be any interest or discussion with the fellow commissioners about maybe part indoor common space, indoor amenity space for the owners of the property in conjunction with outdoor space? Because I do appreciate, I have a dog myself, so I appreciate the need for a little bit of outdoor space, not on the main road.
Commissioner Richter, when you say indoor space, are you meaning internal to the site or internal or in
In a
indoor?
structure, maybe not as big as the original commercial enclosure, but something there for a portion of it.
That's not something that we had discussed. It was, when we were looking at this, it was either a commercial space or an open green space.
Because the idea of commercial is to help activate and create a little bit of mass along street frontages. An indoor amenity space may be able to achieve that, but to the economic developers' points, not require external factors to be at play to make sure it's successful.
Commissioner Spears?
If this were a rezoning and we were going for a mixed use, would you have the same opinion of eliminating the commercial space from mixed use?
Commissioner Spears, I think if this was a mixed-use zone, it would be a little more difficult to remove the commercial. Since this is not a mixed-use zone, it's a straight commercial zone where we're allowing eventually through a use permit, the residential. And this commercial aspect is really a regulation that's in the TOD overlay. Since there is the option of reducing that with the use permit, I don't think it's as a significant of a loss as it would be if it was a larger mixed-use project.
I do have other questions from other commissioners. Commissioner Tom?
So this rendering here with this open space area, would it be open to the public or only to the residents?
Commissioner Tom, this would only be open to the residents. We did discuss this with our police department, and they were uneasy with having this open to the public. So they did want this fenced with a 6 or 8 foot, preferably 8 foot steel picket fence to keep it just internal access for the residents themselves.
Okay, thank you.
So my question relates to the commercial, and I don't disagree with your analysis that there's a lot of vacancies. I've seen it myself. I'm just wondering, you were pointing out, Mr. DiDomenico, Director DiDomenico was pointing out that there's a lot of other commercial around that area directly to the east and a potential, new development across the street, and its proximity to a light rail stop. Does that make this more desirable in some way? And is there something else that can be done with that space to make it more desirable from a commercial perspective?
Chair Johnson, I may defer to Mr. Domenico for that. Domenico?
Chairman Johnson, Commissioners, our experience has been, and probably I'd point you to the corner of Apache and McClintock, to the first floor that's been forever vacant. And the retail there kind of was sold as retail that would feed off of the residential that was directly on top of it. So proximity makes it an attractive retail space. It's also on a transit stop. Never been successful. We're concerned that retail likes to cluster around other retail. You know, when you stop at one store, you tend to cross shop a little bit. And a single retail space with nothing adjacent to it and who's probably trying to rely on what's directly above, there's not many units here to really feed any retail. We have been pushing the concept to developers that, you know, maybe think outside the box, think of daycare as that mixed use, that retail or commercial use. And for larger projects, we're starting to see some people look into that and think of that as a potential use. But here, I see this being the same situation we have at McClintock and Apache, at least until this area becomes more dense.
Yeah, Ms. Kaminsky?
Sure. I just wanted to kind of give a perspective, having been involved with this site for probably the last 10 years. And it was an unsuccessful commercial site for a long time, and it has been vacant. And we've had a lot of applicants come in and try to make something work. It's a very small corner with limited access because of being on a corner. So they tried to work within the CSS zoning standards, you know, not exceeding height, meeting the setbacks, meeting the buffer requirements, meeting the refuse requirements, meeting all of the different department requirements for the site. And I think the scale of it is also driving some of that decision, that, you know, the scale of this project does not warrant the addition of a commercial component in a single-family residential product. The flip side of that is, if we were to go through with the project as designed with the open space at the corner and the market changed, there would be nothing that couldn't say they couldn't come back and apply for a development plan review to add a building at the corner if there was a market for that at that time, and then it would be market driven. But at this point in time, as part of this development, maybe it doesn't make sense.
I have a question.
Commissioner Tom?
I'm not opposed to removing the commercial on the site. I think there's some constraints that just don't make the commercial portion practical. But I have some concerns with the open space component kind of just stuck out in that corner. Was there any thought of moving that open space internal for the residents? So it's not, I think if we put it at that corner, it's going to get lost. People aren't going to use it. It's going to be too far away. It's going to be out in the street. Just kind of a little weird open space out there. Have they looked at other alternatives of adding that to open space internally?
Yes, Commissioner Tom, this site has gone through several redesigns, and this corner is the latest, but there was also, let's see if I can find it easily. So one option for an open space was the area north of Building 1, so the space between units 1 through 6 and Apache, where all those trees are, being in an open dog run. That was one option. There is another open space on the southwest corner, south of the trash enclosures and west of Unit 14. That is going to be a retention area, but that is a grassed open space. And like I said, this has gone through several revisions of building layout. So there were, in previous iterations, different areas of open space. And this version, where the open space is currently, was one of the later preliminary designs that came in with the open space on that northeast corner.
Other questions for staff? Okay, thank you. We will move on to our public comment period. Again, if there is anyone wishing to speak, please fill out one of these cards and bring it up here to the front. I do have 2 already in hand, so when I call your name, please approach the dais, state your name, city of residence, and you are given up to 3 minutes to provide your input. All right, first up is Mr. Phil Amorosi. And on deck is Matthew Savinger. Is that right?
Good evening, Commissioners. Phil Amorosi, 50-year resident of Tempe, my new moniker. I'm the chair of the Hudson Manor neighborhood, and this property backs up to our neighborhood. I watched that vacant Hideaway Motel deteriorate for 10 years. Every couple of years, we'd see a terrible idea from an out-of-state developer. This time, it's a Tempe firm, and I think they really understand Tempe. When Mr. Baker showed me the drawings, I was so happy to hear that it's 3 stories, individually owned, and instead of those usual 6-story student housing apartment projects that we see all the time. The only thing we questioned was that 1,000 square foot community retail space. And to your question earlier, I moved into this neighborhood in '85 when it was a valid Hideaway Motel. That was their community space. Their pool was there. There were tables and chairs out there. So this isn't unique to bring it back to a park. When he said their original idea was a park, I thought, great, this gives the people there another area to hang out. You could see where the tables, chairs, if they do lights, if you see the visuals, you could even do a mural on the side of the walls. It could be really vibrant. Our neighborhood is a flood irrigated neighborhood, so we're full of lush greenery. This would be another added greenery point coming into the neighborhood. Our city keeps saying, we want more green, we want more shade. Well, on a small scale, this is what we should do. We should approve more pocket parks. Our neighborhood's tired of seeing that canyon of apartment buildings going down Apache with all the empty retail spaces. You're going to have retail across the street at the old Food City site, over 10,000 square feet of retail. And then also to the east, like Mr. DiDomenico said, the city owns that property. They've been trying to rent those retail spaces. It's not happening. Why do you want to saddle individual homeowners with another vacant retail space? They would much rather enjoy a community space, a space where they could have picnics, where they can get together and enjoy each other's company. If it was apartments, that's different. But these are all going to be individually owned. And I think also, we're looking at this because of the TOD. Well, the TOD is outdated. I worked on the TOD like 15 years ago, and it should be updated now, and it's not. And this property, I think, would be the perfect spot to move forward. Our neighborhood would welcome these people, and I hope that you change your mind and go towards the park concept. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, now Matthew. And if there's anyone else wishing to speak tonight, please bring up a card. State your name and city residence, please.
My name is Matthew Salinger. My residence is 1614 East Cedar Street. I've been in Tempe 30 years. I've lived along Apache all 30 of those years. And I'm really excited about the way that it's been changing over the years as well. I'm one of the co-chairs of Citizens for a Vibrant Apache Corridor along with Phil. And I'm just going to echo a lot of what Phil mentioned. We really think that actually having a bunch of trees in that corner is a respite for, all of the big 6-story, rather banal developments that have gone along Apache. One might say that it's not the best use for the area, but I disagree. I think something that is that green and shady is a wonderful moment of biophilia in an otherwise very banal architectural landscape that's out there. One of the things that we've done over the last year is to create a developer rubric where we have a bunch of different ideas about how we can create buildings that really talk about and rely on the history of Tempe and its funkiness and its energetic kind of vibe. those are things that we want to see more of. This project doesn't really contain that all that much, but this little garden at the corner is something that I think everybody in our neighborhood in Hudson Manor will definitely enjoy. So I really appreciate if you reconsider that. I would pull the retail out of it. I'm sick and tired of seeing all the retail that's directly across the street to the east. There's a mall that has a little bit of a gym in it, and then it's empty. And where Haji Baba is as well is largely empty. So we don't need another commercial space there. We don't need another coffee shop. We would much rather see a garden, even if the community cannot go into it. I would much rather appreciate the greenness there. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we have one last member of the public wishing to speak, Jonathan Cummings. Can you restate your name and city of residence, please?
Hi, my name's Jonathan Cummings. I live here in Tempe. I've lived here for almost 3 years now. I just decided to come to a public meeting because I saw the billboard. I'd like to state that I think y'all should approve the little park area. Currently I live right by Dorsey and Apache, and I go to the gym right on the other side of this building. And I walk most days, and the need for trees and the heat in this area is quite severe. It's a sea of pavement. You know, there's a lot of development planning, but there's a lot of commercial in the area. We don't need a little commercial. I would really like some shade. And I just wanted to say that. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to speak this evening? Okay. With that, I'd like to offer an opportunity for the applicant to address anything. If you wish to, you don't have to.
Maybe just one item I wanted to point out with regards to the small potential for a community, for the residents. And a development this size with only 20 units and the fact that they're kind of larger townhomes for mainly families, I think it would be more appropriate to have the outdoor space. And also the other thought is the light that you're going to get into the inner kind of guts of this development, having it be open on the corner like that, on the hard corner, I think would make the whole place feel a lot better, even without the single-story building there. I just think having those sight lines through there, I think would be very beneficial. And I think economically it would be hard to increase, you're going to have HOA dues because you're part of a development, and having an increase in your HOA dues to cover air conditioning and all that kind of stuff for a small gym that might only be, 400 or 500 square feet, probably wouldn't get enough use to kind of justify the extra expense. So I would prefer to see it left as an open view corridor through there with the landscaping, but that's just my thought.
Any questions for the applicant?
So are you opposed with the alternative plan that we just saw? With the, I guess it's the landscape plan, it's not a site plan, the landscape plan with the corner open space?
Absolutely not. We'd prefer that. That was where we initially started. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we drew this, so we would like this. Yeah. Especially after a meeting with Matt and Phil and their group, just the consensus seems to be that everybody would much prefer to see it be an open space.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did staff wish to? Oh. Like, where did Robert go? Was there anything else you wanted to address?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. Nothing further with the site plan or design. If you do choose to go with the open landscape rather than the commercial, we do have some conditions of approval that we can propose if you'd like to go with that design.
Yeah, I think we'd like, how would we do that? Would have them read in? Okay, yeah, if you can provide those to us.
So as far as the use permit for the reduction of commercial space, it doesn't prescribe a certain percentage, but this would be a non-standard condition of approval. The use permit is valid for the reduction or removal of the ground floor commercial. So that's an option if you want to completely take it away. and then another one for the site plan. Should the commercial space be removed, a site plan including a landscaped open space area shall be submitted to staff, planning staff prior to building permits. The open space shall include an 8-foot steel picket fence and egress access controlled gates. The landscaped open space shall be an amenity for the residents of Apache Townhomes and not open to the public. And as we've seen with the updated renderings and site plan, the applicant has already done most of this, a lot of this.
So it's just those two?
Just those two, yes.
Okay.
Chair, I have a question.
Commissioner Tom?
Would that replace condition number 1? The one we have up on the screen right now? Because condition number 1, we have substantial conformance to site plan. So would we just replace that one with what we have on the screen?
Commissioner Tom, this could be in addition. So if you were to remove the commercial space, then it would go to this condition of approval.
But would we have an issue with the substantial conformance to the site plan, building elevations, landscape plan dated June 2nd? I wouldn't think they would be substantial conformance with the commercial building on the ones we're seeing in the packet.
Yeah, you are correct. We would have to submit or planning staff would have to approve updated elevations without the commercial space there. So this could replace number 1.
Yeah, I think that staff is considering this to be in substantial conformance by the presentation of showing that corner being removed. They would still need to submit for building permits the other parts of that first condition, but you would be adding this. We could amend condition 1 to include this.
Include what we have on the screen here?
Yes.
Okay. Or essentially just swap them?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Will we be adding or swapping?
So the use permit, we're talking about condition 1 under the development plan review, except as modified by conditions. That one? Under general?
Yes.
Okay. Except as modified by conditions, the development shall be in substantial conformance. Minor modifications may be reviewed through plan check process. This would be considered a minor modification to their design for that little corner that's being changed.
Okay, so removal of that building would be considered a minor modification?
For this application, yes.
Okay.
We have minor modifications of up to 5,000 square feet.
Okay. Good, okay. Any questions for staff on this? Okay, thank you. We will close out the public comment period now, and I will open it up for commission discussion or a motion. Commissioner Richter.
I'm just going to add a few comments. I particularly like the project regardless of the commercial space. So I'm for it. I'd be in full support of it regardless of the direction the rest of the commissioners choose.
Commissioner Lloyd?
I agree with that sentiment. However, I do like removing the commercial, and I appreciate the fact that this was brought up so that we're not forcing a product type that's not necessarily viable in every location that it was originally intended. So I support it with the open space and without the commercial.
Commissioner Spears?
I'm having a problem with this. Although I appreciate the open space, I don't like the open fence. I think that's a security issue for the residents living there because we know the problems we have with unhoused population, unfortunately. And so these are for sale units. And we've seen this time and again where someone comes and it becomes rental property because it's they want to send their kid to school, and we go walk around the number of condos around and see how many of those are actually owner occupied. What happens when they decide it's too much, it's too expensive to maintain grass, and they put in a hardscape, and we don't have a management company, if you will, unless if that's part of the CCNRs. I don't know. I don't have a real issue. I'd rather see it be some kind of amenity space than just to look good. it's on Apache Boulevard. It's noisy. I can't see people sitting out there picnicking. I mean, realistically, a train going by and blowing its, tooting its horn. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with this. It's difficult. I appreciate the effort to make, and I think we really do need to look at the TOD and requiring the commercial in every building, because there is a tremendous amount of empty space. It's kind of hard to say, well, we're going to have all this commercial across the street, when in fact there aren't any real plans yet. And so that's it.
Thank you. Quick question for staff, and I'm not finding it easily accessible. The fences for the residences along Apache, are those also picket or are they block?
Chair Johnson, those would be steel picket, 6 foot.
Okay, so the full frontage would be steel picket, not just for that corner pocket
Correct.
park if we, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Chair Johnson, that was a
Police recommendation?
Police Department recommendation.
Okay. All right. Other comments? Vice Chair Schwartz?
I think similar to Commissioner Spears, I think the challenge I have is really with the fact that it's a CSS zoning and we're having no commercial space versus I'm curious if earlier in the process it was looked at a rezoning of this to more accurately reflect the use that we're seeing here today.
Commissioner Schwartz, I don't believe there was ever a full rezone proposed for this. I believe it was always a residential townhouse project, keeping the CSS with a commercial aspect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it feels like tonight was the night that it changed from that. You know, we're completely removing the commercial, so.
I have a question for staff.
Commissioner Tom?
So the CSS district allows for townhomes. The TOD district requires their retail.
Commissioner Tom, the CSS district allows residential with a use permit.
Correct.
That's what we're going to hear in July. The TOD station area, so the station area is defined within the TOD as within 800 feet, linear feet along a frontage of a light rail station. That's where the commercial aspect requirement comes in.
Correct. So, but if this was straight CSS, they could apply for the use permit if they had a favorable ruling for that use permit.
For the town.
They could build the townhomes without this use permit reducing the retail space.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Miller?
I basically couldn't support this, and while I have a little bit of concern about the location of the park and the fact that it might be devolved to an attractive nuisance, but, you know, for non-residents, because it is along Apache and there are issues sometimes with that. But on the other hand, 1,000 feet or not even 1,000 feet of commercial is in a location like that just isn't viable. And requiring it simply because we're hewing to the meaning of the TOD doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The project itself is very well designed, and it's going to be an asset to that area, and I'd like to see it go forward.
Other comments?
One
Commissioner
added,
Rickey?
one added comment. I do think that keeping it as an open space, I would agree with the concern about it with a picket fence. There's ways to handle that, to create a feature wall or something to help enclose it, make it feel a little bit more secure, and help reduce the amount of degradation over time if that were to occur. So I think there's a solution there. So again, full support of the project.
And I think the comment about security issues potentially with the wall. I mean, I see this at my job. We like to have that visibility through the fences so that you can see who might be in there. And so I think from a security perspective, it probably helps to have it open. So that would just be my opinion. I initially thought we should keep the commercial, but after hearing the discussion, I think it makes sense. I think it would be a difficult property to lease. And in addition, looking through this a little bit more detailed, the property is along Oak, I think that's Oak, the north-south street. Those don't have any yards, so this would be a big benefit to those specific properties as well, and they're the closest ones to it. So I would be in support of modifying this and removing the commercial. All right, any other comments or motions?
I would move approval of this project with the removal of the commercial requirement and the substitution of the open space as presented in the revised drawings.
Including the conditions of non-standard
Yeah,
conditions?
including the non-standard conditions and basically what we've been presented with here by staff.
Okay. Motion has been moved by Commissioner Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richter. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Last item on our regular agenda, with the exception of the announcements, is item 5A. So, Mr. Payne, if you would like to give us an update. I was reminded that we did hear this in the study session previously, and there have been just a couple of meetings after that you've had. So if there's any updates that you wanted to provide us on the character area plan, we would love to hear them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Johnson. Members of the commission, I'm Jacob Payne, Principal Planner with the City of Tempe. And that is correct. You heard this item at a study session maybe 2 months ago, but I'm coming before you now with a draft of that document that I'm looking to get a recommendation from this group tonight to pass along to the City Council for them to adopt. So I'll make it quick and just kind of go over some of the top-down stuff about what character area planning is and why we do it, and then I'll give an update on where we're at with our public involvement and go over some of the contents of the plan as it is right now. So as a refresher, we've got 8 character areas in the city of Tempe. The Diablo Double Butte is that purple one, numbered 2 on the west side of town, and it will be the final one to be adopted by the city. So this is the 10-year project that started with our last general plan. Coming into a new era of we'll have a character area for every place in the city, which is exciting. But we decided we're not done yet, so we'll be updating them. And we've already started on that process, so you'll hear from me about that in the near future. And that will be the Apache character area that we'll do first. Very pertinent to our discussion for the last project. So as a refresh, character area plans, these are high level. They're non-regulatory plans that the city has. They contain mostly vision and policy, helping us guide development decisions to uphold and continue to promote the existing character, aesthetics, vibe of a place in Tempe. So the premise of these documents and a majority of what their contents are is going to be those planning and design principles where we lay out things that we want to promote and encourage implementation of in order to achieve the goals that we hear from community stakeholders as to what they want their part of town to look like. Generally, we're looking at things that will be consistent with other city documents, so you'll see a lot of common themes that appear in these documents that appear in other things that the city endeavors. And a big component of these is that we want them to be community-driven. Have the community have ownership of the plan is a big part of why we do so much involvement and try to get as much input as we can in the development of these documents. The purpose of them, what we use them for, specifically the planning department, it serves for us as a reference that we provide to developers that kind of makes for some points of negotiation to get certain aspects of projects. So we look at those principles and we'll say, are you or are you not doing the things that are laid out in this document, and kind of that helps us to inform whether or not we like the project or if we want to support it. It also helps to provide other input for things that the city might do later on, whether that be things that are a little bit more regulatory in nature, could be master planning efforts. We look back to documents like these that are a little bit more aspirational to get some ideas and momentum to get things moving a little bit further along. So what's not included in the scope of a document like this, anything that's changing projected land uses or densities, we still rely on our general plan on that. Changes to zoning, anything relating to private property rights, regulation, businesses or residences, that can't be done in the scope of a document like this. And then also nothing that's going to be towards any specific instances of public safety concerns about homelessness, or concerns with commercial code compliance. That also falls outside of the scope of a policy plan. So the input that we've had throughout this process, we kicked this off in January of this year with a kickoff meeting. So all the meetings that you'll see on here, we host one virtually and then one in person as a way to gather more people who might have different availability in scheduling or have different preferences on how they want to be contacted. And then we also open online surveys that kind of run in tandem with them. So that first one happened in January, and we opened a survey at that time. Then we came back in March for another public meeting. That one we actually did an activity, the Dotocracy. I think I might have given you that bit last time, but I'll go over some results we might not have had at that moment. We also hosted a business community meeting, which for this area is very important. There's a lot of commercial and industrial land use in this part of Tempe. So collaboration with the city's Economic Development Department and the Tempe Chamber of Commerce, we had hosted that meeting and gave out flyers and other information about the character area and how they could provide input. Then back in spring, did the rounds of relevant boards and commissions to get some input from their angle and also to help spread the word of this process. All culminating in early May when we released the first draft of this document. And when doing that, we opened up a public comment period and had another public meeting to go over that document. So that public comment period was open just until the packet for this commission was put together. So I think these might have been captured in the last time I spoke to you, but these are some of the results from the first survey. So just the highlights of things that have come up as common themes that are important to the residents that we've interacted with. Things like heat mitigation, enhancements of streetscapes and sidewalks, as well as those multi-use trails and paths, down to things like sustainability measures, enhancements in their parks, and the arts. This question relating to prioritization of enhancements. Again, we're seeing those common themes go up there, pedestrian-oriented and canal-oriented design principles. Looking for having strong emphasis on that recommended plant palette, which this plan includes, and I'll talk about that, where that falls into the document. And then another big topic that came up was a lot about mobility and connectivity, making sure that it's easy to get from place to place and using multiple modes of transportation to get there comfortably. This is our Dotocracy activity. So this was our second public engagement activity. It's a voting activity. People are given a certain amount of dots, and they can allocate that to themes however they want to. So they could allocate all to one, or they can spread them out. So we brought boards with these themes to 3 public meetings, as well as the business community meeting, and then an online version that was more or less the same activity. Not as fun because you don't get to put the stickers on the board, but it gets the job done. So this is the cumulative results of all of that input. So the themes that came up to the top, as we see with the other surveys that we had earlier, things like extreme heat management, shade, but also public health and safety is a topic that we heard a lot verbally, and this kind of reflected that, desire to see prioritized in the document. Connectivity and streetscapes, again, rounding out our top 5 up there. So with all this input, we put together the plan that is in your packet. It begins with an introduction and some history of the area. So we had our resident historic preservation officer at the city write that. It's a very storied and detailed history of the area. It's a fantastic read if you want to give it a shot. It's, I think, maybe like 7 or 8 pages, but there's a lot in there that I didn't know going into it. So we like that. It's a way to capture kind of the culture and lead us to where we are now. Then the plan includes a little bit of brief about the public process and the plan development before getting into those planning and design placemaking goals and principles that we talked about earlier. On the next slide, I'll show you what those 12 elements ended up being in this plan. And then additionally, there's some appendices that are in there. The historic plant palette is that list of recommended species that we've put together for this area based on things that we've seen historically used in this part of Tempe, as well as things that we want to recommend, desert species, things that are native, things that are drought tolerant and adapted. New to this character area plan, we've also included what we're calling an implementation rubric, which is a tool that's designed to help community development staff have an easier job of making those determinations that a proposed redevelopment is consistent with the goals in this document. So excited to see how we can work that out, but it's essentially kind of a line by line to show whether or not these themes are being achieved by the proposed redevelopment. We also include some demographic data in there, and then the public input summaries in the project timeline. And one I forgot to mention, there was a new addition, is there's also an inventory of some photos of the area that's included there in the appendix as well. These are the 12 themes that the plan contains. Just name a few things that were coming up really commonly in our public involvement were those climate change, extreme heat management, connectivity, mobility, public health and safety, and shade and walkable environment. To give you an idea of what it looks like in the document, this is an excerpt from the open space element. So they'll kind of start out, it'll be a little longer than this, but this is kind of just that last statement at the preamble of that section where it kind of lays out what the objective is going to be for that theme. And then following that, we have the individual principles of some tangible things that we can encourage or promote to happen in redevelopment that will help us to achieve it. This is one spread of the document, so you can kind of see how that works, where you've got the title goes into the description of the theme and then into those principles. This was our project timeline, and as you can see by the purple star, you are the second to last stop on the ride for the Diablo Double Butte Character Area Plan. And next we will take this to the City Council a week from today for their adoption hearing. So with that, I will open it up for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update. All right. With that, I don't have any public comment cards, so we will move into commissioner discussion or motions. Is there a motion for approval on this item? Commissioner Richter?
Yeah, motion to approve item 5A.
Okay, so Commissioner Richter has provided a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Commissioner Tom. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and that passes unanimously. Fantastic. All right, so we'll move on to any commissioner announcements. None? All right. We're all just very boring, I think. So. Any staff announcements? No? Well, okay, that's right.
You will have a meeting on July 22nd.
Our next meeting is July 22nd, 2025, but the agenda is not prepared yet.
Correct.
So.
Next week it'll be available.
Excellent. All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.